The Old Fakir. Although the term fakir did not appear until about the 16th century or thereabouts, the word derives from the Arabic fakir, or poor man. However, our story goes back in time to the centuries BCE in the South Indian country of Tamilagam, where several penniless wanderers claiming to be religious ascetics or spiritual mystics would beg for their living, often taking advantage of what would nowadays be called a hermitage or a cave-like dwelling in a garden belonging to a rich merchant or landowner. Although these ascetics claimed to possess magical and holy powers, they were also frequently dismissed as mendicants and swindlers, accused of being too lazy to work for an honest living. In more recent times, these wanderers would come to be known simply as fakirs, coming from the Hindu phrase Fakir Fakhri. My poverty is my pride. But throughout history, their magical powers and spiritual gifts have never been convincingly discredited, and this story, although perhaps embellished and extrapolated over many centuries, is still told by the Tamil people to this day. Just outside the Tamil port of Kavaripattanam, there lived a rich merchant and landowner called Jagan. He had gained his wealth through the trading of cerric iron, which was bought by Egypt, China, Arabia, and the Romans in order to make blades for their swords. Jagan had built himself a large resplendent villa some 3 miles from the sea, which a poorer man might have described as a palace. However, as a punishment for making weapons of war and killing, the omniscient god Shiva had taken from him his beautiful young wife, Kiran. Jagan accepted Shiva's judgment, but the loss of his Kiran had broken his poor heart. Kiran, however, before her cruelly premature departing, had borne to Jagan a beautiful daughter, whom they named Vanathi, meaning spirit of the forest. Vanathi, taking after her mother, was possessed of exceptional beauty and drew the attention of many an adoring paramour, and although Jagan was not over-protective of his daughter, he was cautious and inquisitive of any suitor that called at their almost palatial residence. Vanathi, when she was approaching the age at which she was becoming desirable, loved nothing more than to wander in her father's extensive and enchanting walled garden. She would often read quietly there the works of Kapilar, the major poet of the Sangam era, or she would offer her prayers to the god Shiva. The magnificent garden was tended by a quiet and sullen man called Anirudh, who secretly endured a passionate longing for Jagan's beautiful daughter, almost to the point of covetousness. Of course, Vanathi had absolutely no idea that a man more than twice her age might harbour such feelings towards her, and Anirudh, for his part, was careful to keep his passion to himself. He silently tended his master's garden and spoke only in monosyllabic response should the beautiful Vanathi bid him good day. He pruned the palmyra palm trees, the neem and the sandalwood, and he trimmed the euphorbia and the heavenly-scented jasmine. The highly walled garden was protected from all possible gazes of neighbours or peeping toms, and a guard was posted at a small doorway which, when opened from the garden, gave out to the hillsides and fields which lay between Jagan's home and the port of Kavaripattanam way below, some 2 or 3 miles away. On one particularly heat-thickened summer's day, an elderly wanderer chanced upon the garden side of the merchant Jagan's house and approached the guard. He was what we would now call an old fakir, a wandering ascetic, who, according to folklore, possessed magical powers such as being able to rest quite comfortably upon a bed of nails, and, when in prayer to the divine Shiva, appearing to rise some height above the ground. The guard raised his head lazily, But he had no fear of confrontation with the reverend old man. "Good day," the old fakir began. "I expect you have a quite magnificent garden on the other side of this high wall." "Yes," replied the guard, not unpleasantly. "But why do you suppose it's a garden and not a library or stables? You can see no trees above this wall." The old fakir smiled. "But I can smell the heavenly jasmine," he said, "and the sandalwood, too." The guard gave a friendly chuckle. "Of course," he said. "I have stood here for so many months, perhaps I am no longer affected by the smell." "I suppose there is no chance I could see it," said the old man. "It must be very beautiful." "It is," conceded the guard good-naturedly, "but I couldn't possibly let you in. I am under my master's strictest orders. But I don't see why I shouldn't open this door and let you peer through." "That would be uncommonly kind," said the old fakir with a grateful smile. So the guard opened the door and stood to one side so that the old man could enjoy an unrestricted view from the hill path. "Such beautiful trees," sighed the old man. "The jasmine is splendid, the flowers and the bushes. My goodness, it certainly is well looked after." "We have the finest gardener," said the guard. "He's tended it for many years." "Except," the old fakir began, "the euphorbia is placed directly in the sunlight. It is not a cactus, although it could easily be mistaken for one. It would fare far better in shaded light." "Really?" said the guard. "Perhaps I should mention it. Thank you." "Ah, and I see you have a hermitage," said the old man eagerly. "Tell me, have you a hermit living here?" "Not to my knowledge," said the guard, and was suddenly aware that the old man was beginning to ask rather a lot of questions, and he gently pulled the garden door ajar. "Thank you," said the old man. "It was truly kind of you to show me a garden of such beauty."